for Jesus. Touch my daughter. Hey, Lord, I need you to move. Can you touch me? Can you touch this cloth? You've seen that when anybody that is popular comes into town. Somebody comes through town, everybody just want to touch them. Oh, I touched them. It was, I think it was the McCameys that had this testimony. Peg McCamey, I believe, testified of this. I think, I may be wrong, might have been the pair. It was one of them old groups that I love to listen to. And she said, coming up, she said there was always be these people that the latest movie star. Oh, he's coming. And they get there, and they're just trying to get as close as they could to that stage, and maybe he'd reach down and touch their hand, or maybe I got their autograph, and they'll come to and say, oh, I got his autograph, or he touched me. And this singer, she said, oh, that may be all well and good for you. She said, but can I tell you that there was something about the day that he touched me, and that he autographed my heart, and when Jesus touched me and got a hold of me. So everybody wanting to get that touch, and that's the way it was. They didn't know all about Jesus. Maybe all of them didn't realize who he was. He was the Messiah, but they knew that there was healing in his wings, and they knew what had happened there on that island of the Gadarenes, and they knew what was going on, and so there was a crowd there for a purpose, and they was all wanting to be touched by him, but she said, I'm going to touch him. And she does, and Jesus says, stop. Who touched me? Who touched me? Well, Billy Bob? Mary, Susan, Johnny. What do you mean? Peach me, Jesus came from me. What did that mean? She was healed. The woman that was laying on the ground that reached up to touch the hem of his garment, said, somebody touched me. Maybe he said, somebody touched me down low. They'd have never found her. They'd have never found her because he said, immediately I felt virtue. So if she was on her face on the ground, she's standing up. She had all the weakness and all the frailness and all the fragility just that moment. Not when Jesus said, who touched me? Not when Jesus brought attention to say, stop the show, stop the crowd. Wait a minute, somebody touched me. But as soon as she touched him, I believe. You can believe it any way you want. Sister Maltman says it this way. You can preach it any way you want to when you preach it. But I believe she went from her face to her feet. Strength came in her body. Issue of what? She had strength like she'd never had before, and she's standing there and she's trembling, and she turns and he turns to her and says it, and he recognizes, and then she says, it was me, Lord. He said, go, your faith has made you whole. Her life completely changed. Why? Jesus said, who touched me? Jairus' daughter was healed. Jesus continued on. He went to the house and he raised up that little girl. He touched her. So I'm not telling you tonight that we can't ask Jesus to touch us. I'm not telling you tonight that we can't pray that way. But I'm saying, oh, what would happen if we would make up our mind that I'm not just going to sit back and wait for something to happen. Maybe God will tell me, stand still, I'm coming. I've felt the Spirit of the Lord telling me that for months now. Help is on the way. I've heard that over and over again in my spirit. For the first time, I haven't heard it in a while, but the first time today, I heard it on the radio again. Help is on the way. So there's certain areas of my life that I'm just going to sit back because I don't know what I'm supposed to do except for wait for the hand of God to move and however He wants to move, however He wants to bring help. I can't tell God how to bring the help, who to bring the help through, how big I want the check to be, or anything else. But knowing that He will make a way, that He will bring that help. But there is those moments in our life that we have to say, if I could touch Him, what are we doing to touch Him? She said, I'm going through the crowd. She was not hindered by her physical condition. Too many times we allow ourselves to be hindered by physical conditions and say, I cannot, so I will not. If we had a testimony of anybody who overcome physical limitations, it was this lady. And she said, I'm not letting that hold me back. So I just wanted to leave this nugget with us tonight to say, I'm going to touch Him. And I'm not going to let anything prevent me from getting to Jesus. I am not going to let a sickness stop me, because that's why I need to get to Him. I'm not going to let a crowd stop me. I'm not going to let doubt stop me. I'm not going to let anything stand in my way. I'm going to do whatever I can to touch Him. What are we doing to touch Him? Just stand with me tonight. What is our desire? And I know that I don't want to say guilty, but we are apt to use that first approach to prayer. Lord, please touch me. Nothing wrong with that. But I think over these next several weeks that we need to take this woman with the issue of blood, take her approach to say, I want to touch Him. Let's make up our mind over these next several weeks in bringing restoration. If restoration is going to come to my house, remember what we've said throughout these last several weeks? We do have a part in it. Some people think we have no part in it. There's nothing that we do. We just sit back and whatever happens, happens. Paul said, this one thing I do, forgetting those things are behind, looking at those things before, I press towards the mark of the prize of the high calling. This woman said, I'm going to press until I touch His garment. What do you need from Jesus? How desperate are you to say, well, I'll just sit here at the house and wait for it to come? There may be certain times that we do need to just wait on God. Don't get ahead of God. Wait on God. But you know, this woman knew that this was not one of those times. She says, it's not time to stay at the house. It's not time to make excuse. I'm just going to touch Him. That's what I'm going to do. I mean, I just think of some old Southern grandmothers. I'm just going to touch Him. Granny, you can't. You're losing blood on a daily basis. Honey, I'm going to touch Him. You can't. There's no can't in that vocabulary when a Southern grandmother makes up her mind. I don't know about yours, but mine, you couldn't tell my granny she couldn't do nothing. She said, watch me. I don't know who was in that house. Don't tell us who was in that house. I don't know who her neighbors are. What's that crazy old lady doing? She should be laid up somewhere. She's losing blood daily. She come crawling through their legs. I got to get to Jesus. How desperate are you to get to Jesus? We say we're desperate, but we also say, well, I'll wait on Him. I'll wait. Maybe he ain't ready to move in my situation. But maybe there's a call from God. It's on your heart. It's charging your heart. It said, don't wait. Peter is there and he sees Jesus out walking on the waters. He said, Lord, if that be thou, you bid me come unto thee. He said, it's me, so come. Right? He just looked and said, come. Peter steps out of the boat. When he had his mind set on getting to Jesus, he was all right. But when he saw the storm, that's when he got in trouble. When he got his attention off Jesus. Get your attention, get your focus on Him, and get to Him. How desperate are you to touch Him? Because when you do, I believe He's going to say the same thing in 2021 that He said all these years ago. Who touched me? Who touched me? Sister Gilda's going to say, it was me, Lord. Sister Rhonda going to say, that was me. Brother George say, that was me, Lord. That was me. That was me. But how many are willing to press through doubt? Listen, you don't have a crowd to worry about anymore. But there is things that crowd our mind. And that's what we're doing in this fast. We're pushing through all of that. It clouds our mind and crowds our mind. It tries to hinder us and prevent us from getting to Him and touching Him. We're saying that's of the utmost importance. So who will join me, not just in this next week, but in these next several weeks, finishing out, not just up to camp meeting, but the remainder of this year of restoration, saying, if I could but touch Him. Well, I'm going to do all I can to touch Him. I'm going to touch Him tonight. I'm going to touch Him tomorrow. I'm going to touch Him next week. I'm going to touch Him. I'm going to pray until I pray through, because touching Jesus is all that really matters. And Jesus is going to say, who touched me? Somebody touched me with faith. Who's got enough faith to press through that crowd of doubt, frustration, anxiety, whatever it is, and and say, I'm going to touch him. Father God, we got a made up mind tonight. I'm going to touch you. Our needs are desperate. Our situation's desperate. Our country is in a desperate state. Our churches are in a desperate state. We can sit back and sit at home and mope in our situation and say, I don't see how it's going to change. It's going to take the hand of God to move in this situation for it to change. Or we can say, I'm pressing through all of this and I'm going to get to Jesus. I know Jesus makes the difference, so I'm going to do everything I can to get to Him and not further away from Him. I want to get so close that I can touch the hem of His garment. I know if I can do that, everything is going to be all right. I ask you, God, just to give us that kind of desire in these coming days to say, I want that effectual, fervent, pressing prayer life. Lord, I don't want to continue on in that vein of prayer to say, Lord, I need your touch. To say, Lord, I need to touch you. It's all right. There's those times and those moments, Lord, that we can just say, I need your touch. But this isn't one of those moments. Desperate times calls for desperate measures, and we're in desperate times in our families. We're in desperate times in our country. We're in desperate times in our world. And you said it's time that we begin to take it by force. So we're going to push our way through. And starting right here, right now, tonight, I'm going to make up mind. I'm going to touch you. I'm going to touch you. We just ask you to give us strength to do it, Lord. In Jesus' name. Who will press through whatever's telling you to stay in your seat tonight to say, I'm going to get to that altar and I'm going to pray until I touch Him tonight? Who will let that first prayer meeting of your fast start right here in this altar tonight to say, no. Flesh says just sit right here and just, you're weak, you're feeble, you need to hold your strength and just stay right here. He can touch you right here. Who will push past that and say, no. Even if you just move up one pew, just say, I'm making a move towards God. Might not make it all the way to these steps or to these altars. Maybe just make it to the front pew or just move up a pew or two. Make an altar there. Showing it, I'm making a move in His direction. If I could but touch Him. If I could but touch Him. I believe things are going to change. I need desperately for things to change. So I got a made up mind. I'm going to touch Him.